Today we're going to speak about potential, and not just any kind of potential. We're going to talk about a specific type of potential which I call the impossible. This is Fredrik here and the Creativity Explorer, and the tagline for these videos is discover your full creative potential. And I've been thinking about something for the last few weeks. I thought I would share with you. It has to do with exercise, but actually it has to do about creativity and reaching our full creative potential. So let's look at this, what we're going to talk about today. Now, normally we think about potential as not only what we do, but also what is possible for us to do. And of course, then outside of that, we have the impossible. And this is normally how we see it, this potential that could be much more than I could imagine. But if we look deeper into this, I actually would like to say that there's one more aspect out of this. So we have what we do, this is what we are able to do, and then we have what is possible for us to do, and we never really go all the way out. I mean, it would be terrible to always live on the edge of what is possible, or at least it would be exhausting. So we always hold back a little bit from what we think we are capable of, and then we try to reach that full potential, but we always holding back, regardless if that is writing as many words as we can in a day, or running as many kilometers. We just can't always be at our full potential. So we have what we do, and then we have what is possible, what we think is possible, but we're just not doing it. And then outside of that, we think of as the impossible. But I'm going to argue today that in between the possible and the impossible, we have the impossible. And what is the impossible? That is the thing that we don't think is possible, but actually it is possible for us to do. So I'm going to exemplify with this on running. So for years, I would say over a decade, I have not been running at all. I thought I was just, my body was just too tired to run, or I just didn't do it. So the idea of me running 5 kilometers like a year ago would be almost unthinkable. I just didn't think I could do it. I thought my knees were too old. I was past 50, just wasn't going to happen. But then I got inspired to start running. So first, there's a lap around my house, around the streets around our house, which is like 3 kilometers, and it was so difficult for me just to run those 3 kilometers. And I thought that maybe my potential was to run 5 kilometers. But then I started saying to me, you know what, maybe I can run those 5. I'm not just going to run those 3 kilometers, I'm going to run the 5 kilometers. And that's what I started to do. And when I ran the 5 kilometers, I realized, no, I had actually more potential than the 5 kilometers. I could run 10 kilometers. And during the lockdown, I decided to go up, and instead of running my usual 5 kilometers that I've been doing for a few months, I suddenly was running 10 kilometers, something that I thought would be my peak of what was possible for me to run. Now I was running 10 kilometers per day, and for the last 19 days I ran 10 kilometers every day, because my goal was to reach the peak of my potential, which was push me to run 19 kilometers. And then that is what I did on Sunday. I ran 19 kilometers in one go, and when I was done with my 19, I said, you know what, maybe I should just make it 20. And then I made it 21.1, a half marathon, something I would have thought was totally impossible just 1 year ago. And when I was done with my 21.1 kilometers, I actually felt, you know what, I could have done a few kilometers more. The borders for what is possible was expanded. 2 months ago, when the lockdown started, or a couple of months ago, when the lockdown started, I said, you know what, I'm going to see if I can do some push-ups or chin-ups. And I'm sad to say I could do less than 5. And to be honest, most 50-year-old men can do less than 5, which is pathetic, by the way. But I said, you know what, maybe, who knows, maybe I have the potential to do 5. And I started, and I exercised every day, and suddenly I was doing 10 chin-ups, and I thought I reached my potential. Who would have thought I could do 10 chin-ups? And then, as it turned out, the impossible was I could do much more than that. And then a couple of days ago, I did 20 chin-ups, and this morning, and just before doing this video, just to prove to myself that I could do it, I ran my 5 kilometers, and then I did my 20 chin-ups. My potential was much bigger than I can imagine. And a great example of this is also a couple of weeks ago. I looked at my iPhone and said, on average, I have 12 steps per day. I mean, 12 flights of stairs per day. And I said, okay, that's what I'm doing. And maybe I have the potential to do 100 if I really try, but that would be my limit. But then I saw some of my friends starting to walking in stairs. I said, wow, it's impossible for me to do this. I can imagine myself doing 100 flights of stairs. But I thought I need to do more than 12. So I started doing 50 flights of stairs, 70 flights of stairs. Suddenly I was doing 100. I was doing 150. I did 200, 300 flights of stairs. And then I said, I'm going to push myself. And about 1 month ago, I did 1,000 flights of stairs, up and down those 57 steps in that picture over 300 times. Something I would have thought was totally impossible just 1 month or 2 months ago. The lesson here is that we are possible of doing much more than we think. We know what we can do. We know that there's more that we could do, that is possible for us to do. And then we have what we think is impossible. But in between that, what we think is possible that we could do but we're not doing, and what we think is impossible for us to do, we have the impossible, what is actually possible for us to do. 1,000 flights of stairs, 20 chin-ups, 21.1 kilometers and more. And our lesson here is that if we want to reach our full potential in anything, and specifically in creativity, we have to understand the impossible, that area between what we think is possible, what we can imagine ourselves doing, and what is actually possible, which is always, always more than we can imagine. I challenge you, I urge you to think about your potential, not only about what you are doing, not only what you can imagine yourself doing, but to understand that your potential is much more than you can imagine yourself to doing. Because when we realize that, we will start imagining ourselves doing more. We push our limit for what we think is possible when we realize that the impossible is out there, showing us that we can do much more than we could have imagined. That's the lesson today from Fredrik Herren, the Creativity Explorer. Now go out there and discover your full creative potential.